Chapter 35 Graduate Level Research. Kara. By the end of the week, I'm certain not only that hell is real, but that I've accidentally plane shifted to it. I'm sick of feeling people's eyes on me, sick of watching every step I make so that I don't offend the almighty Genevieve even more than I already have. Although I may be a little less successful at that than I could have been. Old habits die hard, and there is nothing more frustrating to a noblewoman than hating someone that she can't talk shit about. So on the surface, absolutely nothing has happened. I haven't provoked her or done anything to irritate her, but that doesn't mean I've done nothing to upset her. It's damaging for her to have to sit there and pretend to be civil in front of all her peers. She hasn't found anything on me, and I'm not stupid enough to be rude to her in public. We've seemed to mutually agree to battle this out the noble way, pretending to be sickeningly nice to one another until one of us finds something they can use. I know I should have just let it go, but the snide smiles and compliments while her friends laugh behind her makes my blood boil. I couldn't resist the temptation to play. I just hope she still thinks I'm the stupid village boy that I've been portraying myself as. It's an advantage I sorely need in her world. At least the day is over, and I can look forward to not seeing her face for a couple of days. Her, or any of her friends that seem to find our fake amity so funny. There's a different attendant at the care center when I go to check Blue out, but he's so ready to get off his shift I doubt he really notices me walking past his desk to talk to Blue. "Hey, Blue?" I try to coax him out of the notebook I've been using as his primer, but he hunches his shoulders a bit and the stuttery motions of the charcoal stylus I've loaned him end abruptly. None of his friends are here. I assume they've all been picked up, if their owners even had classes today. I feel bad that we're going to have to stay late tonight, but we have a special mission. I was trying to finish the... Blue sets his stylus down to mark the page and closes the book, disappointed but ready to go. The walkout is more subdued than usual. There's no excited chatter about his friends. The only thing that's actually been going well is Blue's progress. He's making strides in his studies, tackling each obstacle with a ferocity that I hadn't expected. He's responding better to casual touches, even going so far as initiating. Though it's still tentative, it's some pretty miraculous progress in my eyes. We did end up trying out several different types of food in search of a favorite, and while pastries are good, he seems to have a preference for savory over sweet. I'm a little surprised to find that he likes fish when the product we have this far inland is so bland and rubbery. I want to see what he'd think of the fish from a port city. "Blue, you aren't going to get it all at once. You've been making excellent progress as it is. You should be proud." I try to sound supportive, but the dark look that comes over his face tells me I've failed miserably. "I just needed a little more time. He tries to defend himself, but I cut him off. "I'm not entirely convinced you slept last night." He has no response for that. As well as things are going, there are still things we're having trouble with. I don't know how to talk to him about his nightmares. "I'm not expecting miracles, Blue. For your own health, you shouldn't either." I try to make my voice that calm and soothing tone that makes him relax, but all he does is hang his head and slump his shoulders. I understand that he wants immediate results. I just don't want him to kill himself trying to provide them. The nightmares have only happened twice, but it makes me wonder how bad the days I'd left him alone had truly gotten. He'll twist and whimper, crying out until he hits something solid, usually me. It never takes too long, and he'll settle once he twists around what he hits. He hasn't woken up during one yet, but he gets shaky the morning after. He gets so withdrawn that for hours there's nothing but silence and wary eyes. He ends up sleeping at the care center, his new friends adjusting to the state too well. He tries so hard not to bother me with his problems that I really don't know how to bring them up without causing more distress. As much as I'm glad he has people who can help, it frustrates me knowing that I can't do anything. Instead, I've thrown myself rather fully into all the things that I can do something about. I do my classwork with an efficiency even my worst teachers appreciate. I join a club or two that, as Shauna puts it, will get me out into the suns a few days a week. And I start my research for Jet's little assignment. It's always a mixed bag when researching blight. Many scholars just blame it on the gods of old and cover up any reasonable assumptions with flowery scripture. It's worse in texts from other continents, countries that actually still practice their beliefs in a creator or an architect, or just a smattering of celestial bodies with a heart full of mischief. A straight answer is impossible, so eventually I stopped looking for a straight answer. I'm not going to find a perfect row of data. I'm going to find stories and witness testimonies, reports of celestial mages ruining themselves trying to pull down power greater than themselves. So that's where I have to start. The facts remain that in every region, blight strikes differently. Countries sharing lands within the same regional groups will, accounting for different words, describe the same phenomenon, but each region is affected differently. Anything truly great within historical reference is usually a fixed blending of schools. What can't be identified has usually been so heavily modified and influenced by other schools of magic that the baser components are tricky to identify. I just hope that's the case here. The descriptions of the rituals required to call upon the blight are pretty shrouded in mystery, and even artistic representations have fundamental differences that make the spells incompatible with one another. Every time I try to make connections, something deviates. I need more data. The library is all but abandoned on the last day of the school week, with just a few of the graduate students milling about, but I don't let it discourage me. What does discourage me is the librarian, who, after an hour of searching, tells me the reason I can't find the book I'm looking for is that it is unavailable. What do you mean the volume is unavailable? I can hardly keep my confusion out of the words. I went through the volumes in the catalog specifically to find the most interdisciplinary form of this research. It's outdated, non-specific, and done up primarily in artistic representations of spellcasting. Who in their right mind would actually check out this book rather than something more up-to-date? It appears that the text you're looking for has been checked out by another student. The librarian responds in a bland voice, telling me what I already know. It has to be checked out to become unavailable. If it had just been thrown out, then it would be an absent volume I'd have to track down at some other library. Do you know when they'll be checking it back in? I try to salvage what's left of this day. If I know when the book will be back in, I can just work around this little setback and keep going with my analysis of the soil samples. It says right here on the checkout slip, indefinitely. The librarian hums at that, and it's all I can do to not jump over the desk and read it for myself. As it is, I can see where the checkout information is listed, the purple ink scribbling out the 12 letters that are currently plaguing me. Right. Do you know where I could find the person who checked it out? Really, I only need to take a peek. I'm sure they wouldn't mind. I try for my most innocent smile, hoping that the librarian will see me as a harmless little nerd. I wouldn't do anything drastic, but I would probably bother them until they give in. According to this, Lee's. Oh, lucky you, they're probably still on campus at this point. They're a grad student and have their own lab, the librarian replies with a smile. Apparently, there are no rules against giving out personal information. Either that or my disarming smile has actually worked for once in my life. A graduate student, that makes sense. I'm pretty glad I don't have to go make a house call. There's a huge building on campus for university-funded research that's mostly used by grad students, so I take it that's where I'm meant to go. I wonder what this Lee's could be doing with the book I need. It's too interdisciplinary to be useful for most things, though perhaps they're trying to find a better balance for a spell in their own craft. Hybrid schools do tend to be stronger, especially when their baser elements are combined. Despite how different the things you're trying to blend may be from one another, you are still using the same language to describe and define the same universe. They'll blend without much work. It's just a matter of figuring out a school of magic that's foreign. Do you know what they study? I ask. The university has grants out in every field, so it's not exactly restricted to a single department. Necromancy, the librarian answers back matter-of-factly, closing the checkout book and packing up. Of course they do. I've stayed away from necromancy for 7 years. It would be too much to expect that record to continue. The Graduate Studies building is only a short walk from the main campus. It is an imposing structure, a high tower that rivals any other building on campus. It's unnerving from the outside, and it doesn't get any better on the inside. There's so many wards that my head starts to spin just trying to count them all. No one in this building has any trust, including the university, as many of the runes are simply to minimize damages. A place of research is also most commonly a place of danger. I don't want to go see a necromancer.
Master, are you all right?
Blue's voice wavers, and I can see the concern in his eyes. His body's drawn as tense as a bowstring, but he's still walking beside me. Yeah, Blue, I'm fine. I try my hardest not to make it a lie. I should be fine. This is nothing to worry about. Academic magics are different from the results of an unpracticed hand. There's no one at the desk up front, but that's fine. There's a printed directory at the end of the hall. Blue points out every L in the directory until he comes across the room that's been taped over and scribbled on. Lees. No last name, though it may be printed behind the tape. Either way, we know where to find this person. 5th floor, room 533. As it turns out, it might as well have said 6th door to the left for all their numbering system is good for. There's no order. Like each student was allowed to pick what their room number would be without considering who they'd be next to. I knock on the door. No sense invading a research space when the person's not even there. Yeah, come in, a voice calls from inside, and I hesitate at the door. I have permission. I should just go in and ask to see the book. I take a deep breath and open the door. The room is nothing like what I'd expected. There's an intense scent of incense that practically rams into me once the door opens. But other than that, the room is very different. There are windows, for one thing, and though they seem to have curtains that usually obscure them, they're open for now. It's probably to clear out the incense. But without it, I don't think I could have mustered the courage to step any further in. The candles are arranged by color and wick type on the desk, and 5 different organizers sit on top of themselves on the other side of the room. Presumably for the incense, if the smell is anything to go by. But the most substantial personalization in this room is the casting circle. It's been more than chalked into the ground to measure up angles. It's been inked into the stone. Absolutely permanent, so that the angles are forever correct without the agony of remeasuring every few spells. Papers and document files lay in disarray all over the room, along with inks uncapped and scattered. A pile of papers in the back of the room shifts to reveal a figure hiding beneath, though by the bags under their eyes they might have just been sleeping. This Lees seems to have more respect for their craft than for their own body.
And you are?
They ask, tired tone culminating in the form of a yawn. Kara, you'd be Lees, right? I can't help the doubt in my voice. The room number was correct, but this is certainly not the image of a graduate-level necromancer I'd been imagining. You came looking for me. Why are you so confused? Their tone betrays their annoyance, though I can't say I blame them. That was pretty rude of me. Well, I saw the tape on the directory. It just seemed an unusual name is all. I try to explain myself, but Lees just narrows their eyes. Well, I suppose I can't say the same for you. Your parents get caught up in those naming fads. Feel pretty bad you gotta go around with a derivative of one of those brat princes. They huff, levering themselves upright and brushing off the pieces of parchment that cling to their robes. Their robes at least match their title as a necromancer, as do the pieces of bone that scatter with the excess pieces of parchment. Hey, I was named before that one. My parents were just terribly unimaginative. Still, better than all the 12-year-olds that have to live with the name Siep for the rest of their lives. You make a fair point. They consider for half a second before nodding back to me. So, Kara not named after a fad. What do you need with me? I actually need a book that you have, I confess. Honesty is probably best. I doubt they'd see dishonesty as anything remotely endearing. You're gonna have to be more specific. They motion to the piles of books on their chairs and floor. I wonder if being able to check out books indefinitely is a thing that grad students get to do. I figured. Lorenia Corpus, to be exact. It's a book on... Yeah, it covers a bunch of different models of ritual practice and casting. Why do you need it? Need a color by numbers to make sense of your homework? They chide. No, I just need to borrow it for a little bit, compare the diagrams to a special pet project I've been working on. I try to explain, but I'm cut off by my own scream. A skeleton has mounted the table and pressed into Lee's for affectionate nuzzling. Stars above, Unc, you scared me. Lee's chastises weakly before giving in and petting the thing where its cartilage ears meet bone. I can't help the way I stare. At first at the bony cat, but then at Lee's as I process their words. What? They ask, the cat twitching its tail to punctuate the curt tone. You curse like a Visali. I was just... sorry, I thought you were from Durian, I say, stumbling over my words. I am, but I get enough weird looks from my pale-ass skin. More when I'm throwing up curses to the architect. They explain, dismissing their experiment from the desk with a wave. I suppose that makes sense. There's enough to adjust to in a new place without people being able to tell you're not like them at a glance. You make a fair point. Do you have a demon? I try to ask, but they cut me off. Yes, I have a demon. No, he's not around. They deadpan, staring straight into my eyes as if wanting me to challenge the statement. Sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. When I was over there, I thought the whole thing was really cool, but I never really got a chance to see them. I try to apologize. I suppose it was a pretty rude question. I don't remember a lot from Durian, but I do remember the demons. There were so many different kinds, and at the time I couldn't really ask many questions. They were just so fascinating. They aren't very different in practicality to familiars. They serve their masters and get used for spells, but it was the whole process of getting them here that interested me. They weren't just beings that existed on this plane. They had to be pulled through the veil. You were in Durian? That little slip seems to have caught their interest. There's no shame in playing it up. I need them to like me if I'm ever going to get a look at their book. Yeah, quite a few years ago. I hedge carefully. I certainly haven't been to Durian recently, so I can't act as though I might be able to know someone they might. What were you doing, if I may ask? They counter, suspicion piqued. The truth isn't a problem, just a bit shameful if the right person got a hold of it. I doubt Lee's is the kind of person to go around gossiping. Even still, it's unlikely that the kind of person who would be anything less than perfectly presentable in the lab would run in the same circles as Genevieve. If you can keep a secret, flipping burgers at a cute little mom-and-pop diner, I confess, unable to come up with any reasons that make Lee's a bigger threat. You're kidding me. They laugh, and I feel somewhat relieved that my assumption was correct. Anyone even remotely respectable would have backed away slowly like I was trash on the curbside. Nope, you can go just about anywhere so long as you know how to make a decent burger. It's mostly true anyways. Made my way through 9 countries on the concept at least. So, you went to have somewhere to go? They sound exasperated, and for good reason, I suppose. I've pretty much blown off their home country. Nah, eccentric magic is pretty well accepted there. I wouldn't have been able to learn half the stuff I know now if it hadn't been for that little trip. And that's mostly true. I sure as hell didn't choose Durian on a whim. The magic was a happy little accident, but I don't have any other reason to be there that would make sense to them. Yeah, not everywhere in the whole world is as repressed as this place. I don't have anything to say against that. They're right. Especially considering Durian. Magic isn't relegated to specific shows of power, high-class accessories, or highly controlled projects. There's nothing in Durian that keeps a new mage from being able to experiment and learn, hone their craft, and better themselves. Did you finish your Huanai, or do you just have a demon for school policy? I try to force myself out of reflecting on the past. I didn't get to ask before, but I remember some vague bits about the summoning ceremony. It's a coming-of-age thing for mages that want to dedicate themselves to the craft. Technically, it's blood magic, a call into other dimensions based on the signature of the magic. I didn't do my Huanai. I left home before I could. But my demon, he's the kind my uncle had. I called out for it during the summoning and got stuck with him. They smile, apparently not too dismayed with the result. That's amazing. I didn't know you could do that. What about yours? Where's your familiar? They ask. Oh, Blue is... I turn behind me to introduce him, but he's not there. I have a second-long heart attack before I find him on the other side of the room, kneeling in front of that skeleton cat. Blue, what are you doing? I don't know if it's okay to touch the thing, let alone if it's safe. I'm sorry, he was just confused. Blue offers by way of an explanation. Not that it helps. There's no one here but us. Who? Lise asks, apparently as bewildered as I am. Unc, he was wondering if I got stuck in too big a body too. Blue looks up at me with wide, honest eyes, and I'm sure at this point that I've just lost my mind. Wait, what? Lise is just as confused as I am, but Blue just strokes a careful line down Ank's back, wary of his sharp spine. Blue, are you telling me that you can talk to... that? I point to the pile of bones that's swishing its tail in a far too confident manner. Most, felines all have the same base in communications. It's pretty simple to talk between us, Blue explains. Oh, stars! Lise takes Blue's face and squishes his cheeks between their hands. Tell me what he says, they demand. Oh, no, he was just complaining about the new bones. He was a Corndian Rex, and he still hasn't properly adjusted to the extra reach that his new form allows. Stars above, the thing's soul isn't even back in a familiar host. I feel my skin crawl at the very thought. My mind flashes through memories of incorrect sigils and misaligned runes. It's dangerous to put souls into the wrong body, or to call for too general a soul. The wrong body or soul can be agony for the being called into it. The being could be blinded or deafened to the world around them, in excruciating pain, trying to settle into a body that rejects it. The animated pile of bones seems unbothered by this, however, and simply meows to Blue until his face goes pink. And he says he needs more of the turkey treats, Blue translates haltingly. Nebuchadnezzar, get over here, Lise calls before turning back to Blue. Can you do it again? They ask, voice firm, promising something bad should Blue lie. Yes, Blue whispers, not quite so confident as he was before. Blue, it's not a test, they just want to be sure. I try to be reassuring. The fear is probably just some misplaced concern that what Lise wants, he cannot provide. This is groundbreaking, Lise exclaims, picking up Ankh and spinning him around the room. Blue, do you feel comfortable playing translator? Blue's caught up in Lise's little joy parade, but he doesn't look too uncomfortable anymore. I just want to make sure he's okay with being used as a translator. I just want him to know he has the option to say no. Yes, Master, I'll try to be as helpful as possible, he practically purrs, not taking his eyes off of the affection so obviously passed between Lise and their experiment. Seriously, this is perfect. I need this kind of data. You have no idea how hard this stuff is to find. There's practically nothing on what kind of soul you pull forth in summonings. This data will be instrumental to my project, and you can look through that book you needed while you wait, okay? Lise is one bouncing pile of energy, as ready to make progress in their research as I am. I don't see any harm in it. Blue's just going to do some talking, translating back and forth. It's nothing dangerous. Still, I feel bad saying yes without even asking what Blue thinks of the whole situation. I can't imagine talking to souls in the wrong bodies for an indeterminate length of time. When I look, Blue simply nods, throwing a smile my way before turning back to what I can only assume to be Nebuchadnezzar. He is seemingly not as bothered by this whole turn of events as I am. All right, I relent. Blue doesn't need me constantly babying him. If he says he's okay with this, then I have to trust him. I busy myself by going over to the desks to sort through piles of books, trying to find the data I need.